which does make me wonder because Disney promised that Tron was going to be up for the 50th, and I know with certain things, occurring in the world that put a delay, but it makes me wonder if they're going to extend the 50th, like as far as the celebration terms, as far as so they could even capitalize more on merchandising and getting people down there when they want to experience Tron. There goes the marketing for the merchandise.
Go ahead, OG.
It's possible. I will say this, though. Disney's really dropped the ball on the Walt Disney World 50th. Like, they dropped the ball so hard, it went through the floor.
Absolutely.
I mean, in October, when it kicked off, there were 2 weeks, give or take, of intense hype. It was everywhere. It was on ABC. It was all the platforms were hyping the 50th. I honestly, and I follow this stuff very closely. I do it all the time here on the channel.
Yeah.
I forget half the time that they're even having a 50th at this point. It's completely fallen off the radar. Like, what happened? Yeah. Where is it?
I had a customer come in the other day, huge Disney fan. We got into a very lengthy conversation. She actually went down with her family on October 1st, the actual day. And she said, unfortunately, she says, I still love Disney. I'll still go. But she said to go there on the anniversary day was the biggest mistake she has ever done, because she said it didn't feel like a typical Disney anniversary. She said it didn't feel like the 25th anniversary. She said it didn't even feel like the 45th anniversary. She said Disneyland's 60th and 50th were phenomenal. She said all this was, it felt like a merchandising marketplace. That's what she called it. Because she literally said the lines for the Emporium were longer than the attractions.
Yeah, and I remember very vividly the 50th anniversary at Disneyland, and it consumed the air of the whole resort for 18 months. Like, you couldn't escape it. There were commercial after commercial on TV about the 50th. You go to the park, it's all around you, and it's just it was all like encompassing it. Like, you can't escape it. Even with the 60th, I feel like with Walt Disney World's 50th, that's not the case. It was like 2 weeks of hype, and then it's just like, okay, is it still happening? I don't know. It just feels like it completely fell off. They've dropped the ball so much on that. And I know the Pandy hit and that altered the whole thing. But
do you think overall that was the main cause of why the 50th is the way that it is? Or do you still think it still could have had that way of, okay, we just have to market it and get a lot of this merchandise out? Because a lot of the times, even more so at Walt Disney World, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but it's like I see it more at Walt Disney World than I do Disneyland. It's you have these certain spots. It's like, okay, here's for an Instagram picture, and here's for this, and here's for Snapchat, and here's like, for me, that's not what Walt Disney World was supposed to be for. And it's like it's all about now for the rating, for the likes, for the subscribes, and it's like that's not what it was supposed to be. So
well, they've kind of
banking on that for the 50th, regardless of if the Pandy happened or not.
They have embraced the social media age, and for them, I've heard it. It's like, hey, the more Instagram shares that we get, the more Instagram walls that we build and people take pictures in front of, we get the brand out there. And it really is kind of unfortunate, because I heard for years leading up to the 50th at Walt Disney World, the entire company was getting ready for it. And Walt Disney World was going to hit it hard. There were a lot of projects that were in the works, to get that property up to snuff in time for October 1st, 2021. And it just, when the Pandy hit, it just changed all of that. It just changed the trajectory on all of that. And they were kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place. It's like, we'd love to, spend to do what we were originally going to do. Obviously, it's a golden anniversary, but you're limited in how much you can actually do it. And I will say, like, I do agree with your the person in your experience there, George. Yeah, it was like a shopping event, essentially. It was like a merchandising event, and that's how they treated it. Now, I will say, the merch team, they knocked it out of the park. I will say, the foods team, they did a nice job. But I can't remember saying that about the 50th or 60th at Disneyland. That it was just, the really good thing that we were all talking about was the merch. I
got to experience Disneyland's 60th, and I tell you what, out of all the anniversaries, that one was so memorable to me.
Yeah.
Especially with Disneyland Forever, and it was.
Well, and this is the thing too, and this kind of brings me to like a larger kind of discussion. Nostalgia is big money here in Anaheim. Disney pounds the nostalgia when it comes to Disneyland. Is it do you guys think, in your opinion, that there's not the same kind of market for the nostalgia for Walt Disney World, so they kind of lean more on it being more of a overall kind of like a like you said, sort of a generic sort of like merchandise campaign? Do you think that's part of the issue? Is that like the nostalgia doesn't sell as much?
No, I think that's why, because I think with Walt Disney World, in the public sense, it's more of a vacation destination where you're getting people from all square corners of the world to come down to this vacation kingdom, as they always called it, where you're staying 5, 6, 7, 8 days. So how do they capitalize on that? Okay, let's utilize this resort and let's get out all this merchandise, all this specialty foods, all these signature snacks, and let's use that. Where with, I think, Disneyland, it's more, I don't want to say like home base, like it's more I'm trying to think of the word for it.
like more like, like if you grew up in Southern California, it's like you grew up at Disneyland. Your parents grew up at Disneyland. Their parents grew up at Disneyland.
Yes.
It's more like, it's more rooted in that whole generational.
Exactly. It's a very, it's a cultural and generational institution. I think Disneyland is for a large extent, and I think Walt Disney World is changing. Obviously, it cultivated its own fan base, right? There are a lot of people who have been going there once a year for quite some time now, but I think that dynamic is changing, and leaning into nostalgia as heavily as they do out in Disneyland might be complicated, because, you got a lot of Walt Disney World visitors who simply haven't gone in 10, 15 years, maybe never. Maybe it's the once-in-a-lifetime trip kind of thing.
Who really knows how that's going to be when, I'm not saying if, when Disneyland Forward comes into fruition, because I think if they have plans to expand the horizon of Disneyland, where you're making it big enough that, they want people to go out there for a X amount of time, and they have a lot more to do, then Disneyland may adapt to their own version of what they're doing at Walt Disney World.
I think we're seeing that now. I think we're seeing that shift towards a the world's most famous regional theme park, this kind of a locals-driven park, to a tour, kind of a tourist destination kind of thing, a vacation destination, so to speak. I think that's occurring now. Some part of that's good, some part of that's kind of bad. But it's far harder to leverage nostalgia in the same way that Disneyland does out there in Walt Disney World, and I think it's kind of interesting because they do it with the merch a lot. Right. Isn't that kind of weird? Like the merch is all, it's all retro, it's all 71, it's all, all this
Orange
kind of
Bird
stuff.
and
Orange Bird and stuff.
But then they don't. Yeah, then on the shows, it's like the fireworks shows and stuff. It's very much more generic,
Yeah, and modern. And